it's when you're young and you're working with creative people, and you have a good approach to, I could do anything. Sure, I could make denim, and I could do this, and so that's what ended up happening, and it grew to like around 35, 40 million, and I had 40 employees. And as an owner, you're always, you're the last to get paid. So it's like, if everything works great, you do great. And if it doesn't, which is what life and owning a business is about, that's part of the journey.
Jon Levine, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mark?
Good, good. How was New York?
New York was good. It was, I survived the snowstorm, which was, I guess, once every 10 or 12 years, they have a snowstorm like that. It was a lot more of a lead up than it was, we had a lot of snow, but just glad to be back in sunny California.
Did you take Mom Donnie's offer and grab a shovel to make a couple extra bucks?
I was thinking about it, but different sort of work ethic. I've seen people out there just holding shovels. It was like, a mafia union job or something like that. It's like, just give my cousin a job there, Like,
I know. It's crazy.
Chair, like
what wild times we're living in is like, they're like, show up to this location, grab a shovel, and just start.
But I got news for you. All things aside, he did. And maybe it was a testament to the fact that it was warm on the warmer side. It wasn't like sub-zero temperature like the last snow they had over there. So it melted pretty quickly. But I'll tell you though there's a whole nuance of walking there when it's all slushy, because it's like you think it's like not that slushy, and you put your foot in it, and it's like you almost go to your knee. It goes, it's like, but wow. That's the fun of it. But New York's
it's crazy.
Great. New York's great.
You live the dream. I mean, you live the absolute dream, John, being bi-coastal, LA and New York. Like, how did you set up this lifestyle?
Over time, I grew up in New York, and then found my way out here after college to go to law school, and then I stayed out here, and I've been out here since then. And obviously, being in the fashion industry for so many years, New York is like the hub of the fashion industry in a lot of ways, and so I did spend a lot of time there. I had offices there through the 90s, and then then my kids ended up going to school there. And you send your kids to New York, you think they're gonna come back to California. It's like, why not live here? But for some reason, these California kids, they really like New York, and there's a lot of community there. I guess that's really the exciting part. It's the best place to be as a young person because of all the activity there and opportunity. It's an exciting place
and the networking.
And the networking, exactly. But and so I started to come back there more often. On the consulting side, picked up some really great clients there. Since I started my consulting in 2008. And now I look forward to going both. It ends up working that way, and in a lot of ways I do think it's a Gen Z thing. Maybe I'm part of a Gen Z thing because it's like I like to experience things and have a change of atmosphere, and I do think it helps with your energy level if you're able to create different sort of relationships that are and lifestyles that are one day you're in one and the next day you're in the other for a while.
Totally.
So it
keeps it fresh, keeps it exciting.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really stoked to have you on today. John, I know we just went a little bit of your background, but why don't you dive a little deeper into what do you do?
Sure.
Because you've been in this fashion world for a long time now, fashion and apparel. it'd be great to just hear like what type of clients you work with and what do you exactly do with your consulting business?
Sure, sure. Well, I think I touched upon how I made it out here in California. But my foray came into the fashion industry about 10 years after law school, where I started a company called Major Motion Sportswear in like 1988 and 89, 88. And it was basically the t-shirt business. I was a distributor for Fruit of the Loom. Back then, fashion brands would buy these blank t-shirts and put their own labels in it, put screen prints on it, or like the Dodgers would win and everyone would need t-shirts that said the Dodgers on it, or there'd be a license like Batman was huge or something, and then they needed to, they would, a company who had the license would get an order from Walmart, would need like 10,000 dozen black t-shirts, size large and extra large. So I used to stock those, and then I was watching everyone else making a lot of margin on slapping a screen print on it. So I said, why don't I do that? Which I started to do, and I hired independent showroom in New York for both juniors and kids, and then buyers would say, can you do it with a matching legging? And before you knew it, I hired a designer, and then I was off to the races. And, it's when you're young and you're working with creative people, and you have a good approach. Say, I could do anything. Sure, I could make denim, and I could do this, and so that's what ended up happening. And it grew to like around 35, 40 million, and I had like 40 employees. And as an owner, you're always, you're the last to get paid. So it's like, if everything works great, you do great. And if it doesn't, which is what life and owning a business is about, that's part of the journey. So I got to a point where I was like really burned out on, doing it myself. And I ended up, excuse me, winding down my business, getting everyone jobs, sold my building, took a bunch of time off. And at the age of 42, I was looking to do something else, but a really good friend of mine who's a top attorney in the fashion industry said, you know how to run companies. Let me introduce you to a client of mine at that time. It was James Person. He was doing about 15 million at the time. I didn't know about the contemporary market. I was in juniors, so you were making like 24, 25% gross profit margin. I didn't know you could make like 55, 60, 65% gross profit. And that maybe I wouldn't have been burnt out if I was making those margins.
Yeah.
But
those margins make, you go an extra 10, 15% makes a big difference.
Straight to the bottom line.
That's straight to the bottom line in your pocket. Yeah.
I would have not been the last to get paid if that was the case. But we grew that business. I was the first COO. We grew that business to like 45 million. Then I got recruited by some private equity people to be president of Splendid and Ella Moss. They had Splendid and Ella Moss were owned by the same company, two different sort of women's contemporary brands. And I was there for about a year to help with the transition. When private equity people invest in creative culture, it's sort of like a shock
two
therapy
different paradigms. It's two paradigms trying to come together to make one.
Exactly. And so, and then after that, I started my consulting company, Apparel Advisors, in 2008, and been focusing in the contemporary space. I saw that there wasn't like the level of everyone calls themselves a consultant now, but before then there really wasn't. The only people calling themselves consultants back then were like CPAs that wanted to just help run numbers for people or whatever. But I saw a need for, both the startup side and the turnaround side, people with some experience in functionality and strategy, and also knowing how to work with creative people. So, there's a unique situation where you need to give them the ability to continue to succeed on what got them there in the first place, and at the same time figure out how you could best monetize them. And so I've had some really good success since 2008, and it's been an interesting journey, and both in terms of some great people, great creative people I've worked with, some really good results, and then certainly some disappointing situations, because it's definitely one of those business for the faint of heart, because you could have the best of everything and not succeed, or you could have, you don't have to be the best, but you have other things going for you that make you successful. So it's an interesting place to be, but you have to at least get into a state of mind that you have a budget, you have goals, and you sell everyone on those goals within your company, so that they are all thinking the same way, that everyone's finishing each other's sentences. I think that when you have that set up, it's magical, and that's what makes it all worth it, I guess. The other thing that is so exciting about what I've been doing, besides the flexibility now of being a bi-coastal person, is that you have to force yourself to learn everything. You can't be the last to learn and be a valid consultant. You have to be the first out there. Your clients are the ones on the hamster wheel, so you have to just help them along.
And those hours of you learning are not billable hours.
No,
those are you learning and bringing
personal
it to the
enrichment.
table.
Personal enrichment.
I agree. It's like, I feel like the same thing on the agency side, which similar to consulting, is anytime there's new technology, even if it's not applicable directly to your market, it's like, how is it being used? And I think the big thing for us right now is like, AI creative agents. It's like, we need volume on creative, and AI is, we had lunch recently together, and I think just us talking a month ago, right? But sometime in, middle of January, late January,
Mm-hmm.
like just seeing where AI is moving every 3 to 5 weeks in the sheer like rendering capability and the storytelling capability, it's unreal how good it's getting.
Well,
And-
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was going through some tutorials with companies on the AI tech side in June of last year, in the fashion side of things, more than fashion, just lifestyle brand type stuff.
Yep.
Let's keep it like that, because that's it's not always about fashion too. And what ended up happening was, with the advancement going on with these LLMs, that technology that I was getting tutored on is like done. Like, they spent all that money on it, and now you can do it with the LLMs or with the agents to a certain extent, except it's even better because you could customize it for yourself versus having something that's out of the box.
Well, you can also, like, these agents are getting, you literally upload your brand requirements, your website, your product feeds. Like, we have a tool, I think I was talking to you about it when we met last. It's called GTV. They're still in startup mode. And we fully adopted it and kicked off. We haven't fully adopted. It's taken some time, but we kicked off around 4 weeks ago with them. It's a generative AI platform, creative platform that generates video and photo using every one of the generative AI models. So Sora 2, Veo 3, Nano Banana, uses them all. And it's unreal how well it's at rendering. And it's getting better every single day. And the cool thing is GTV launched an agent. So now we have a creative agent that we're talking with daily. So instead of just putting in a prompt, now we talk back and forth with the agent, in dialogue, and the agent can do research, and we can now do research too. So let's say there's a top performing UGC creative that we see that that maybe we're doing some research, and we see a top TikTok creative from an organic TikTok video from a competitor. Or say we're on Foreplay, which is a tool that we use for spying on other brands with their ad creative. We can take those creatives, upload them.
I'd say doing research.
Yeah.
Doing research.
Doing research. So, it's just wild. All these tools are so, gives us optics that you think about, like, 25 years ago, you'd have to buy a magazine that someone was advertising in, or watch the commercials on prime time, or drive down the street and see what the ads look like and snap a photo and take it back to your office to reworkshop it. And now with the volume, we have access to so many creatives and so much energy and technology. So now we're taking that research, applying it to the AI agent within GTV, and GTV's agent is now spitting out concepts. And now it's getting so good that every morning it can actually give us, hey, we need this much volume on statics and video. And then we just click in the account, yes or no, we like it, or it passes or it fails. And boom, we give it feedback. And now, we're able to scale on the performance side. We're able to scale on the paid media side like we've never been able to scale before. Are you familiar with Cherokee of California? They're like they're a shoe brand. So our client,
well, actually,
Jim,
it's the original Cherokee license.
Well, Cherokee.
It's the Cherokee brand.
It's Cherokee, the Cherokee brand. So,
it's their product.
So
category.
Jim, our client, Jim Osteropoulos started Cherokee in 1972 in Venice. He was a shoe clogger. Grew Cherokee to like one of the top shoe brands, one of the top selling, SKUs in all of Nordstrom was Cherokee back in the 90s. Sold it to private equity, had like a life-changing exit. And then a couple of years ago, he had the opportunity to buy Cherokee of California back. Someone still owns the Cherokee license, but he bought the Cherokee of California. So he owns it, and he's like, I'm in my mid-80s. I'm going to try to bring this brand back. Let's see what happens. And, we've been struggling to get the right creative for months. We took over right in like early fall. So, which was obviously for a footwear brand that's specifically like open-toed heels and shoes, not that great of a time to take over.
Yeah.
We're going into holiday, and obviously we had some
not
pretty
good. Other than
it's not good
unless it's like for cocktail dresses for holiday.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, Cherokee, mostly the SKUs are like sandals and heel open-toed wedges, and so it's not great for winter. We have a season. Obviously, we got through that cold spell in January where half the U.S. was frozen over, and we started using GTV, and it's unbelievable the results we get. I'll share some of the creative with you, but we're able to scale.
Well, I have a couple of questions about that. For
you.
So,
for sure.
I think that a lot of brands, though, even if they have all that ability and that opportunity to leverage into the technology to create more content, inexpensive content, or at least content that's going to give them the highest return on ROI, I do think that it really at first starts with the origin of the brands and whether or not they've correctly positioned themselves and know who they are as a brand and how they need to communicate it outwardly. So you almost inherited the situation, and if you're working with, say, a tequila brand, they have it in their budget to spend $500,000 or $1 million to hire a creative agency to do everything from the designing the bottles, coming up with the name, coming up with the market,
Everything.
the identity,
It's
the
all
pricing
sales.
of it.
It's all sales and marketing.
And
Yeah.
so they have like a beautiful brand book, and everyone, you could feed the brand book into the AI even, you know? But fashion, lifestyle brands, unless they're doing over 50 million in sales, they really don't have, or they never really budget to come up with a real brand book going in. So a lot of them have struggle in terms of identity, unless they put together, which I recommend, which I'm involved in on my end, these like what I call mini brand books, so that they have this Bible of what the brand is. And so when they work with people like you, or work with other agencies out there, PR agencies or whatever, if they're doing an event or whatever, so that you understand what the language is that they use, what the fonts are, who, you know, what their call to action is,
Totally.
you know, and so
You've defined it not only on the creative side, but also on the messaging side, which is a huge piece that most people miss.
yeah. So how
Yeah.
do you manage brands that come to you, and you say to yourself, I'm just a little bit confused. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Good
who
question.
are you? You know, like,
Yeah.
are you a Gen
So
Z brand, or, you know?
Yeah, we see this a lot where there's a lack of focus. And you know, the moment like, you know, are you familiar with Simon Beard? He's the founder of the streetwear brand out of Australia, Culture Kings. Have you heard of Culture Kings?
No.
Look this guy up, follow him on social media, super talented guy. Essentially, he sold the brand to like a PE group that's like merged with like Princess Polly and a couple of other brands. But he started his company as like a merchant in like a mall, like one of those like, you know, like little cubicle stands selling stuff, selling hats and like streetwear in Australia. Built it into this massive business, focused on the like streetwear type of market, Culture Kings being the name, did a bunch of licensing deals, but he was like breaking it down. He's like, anytime a brand tries to be something to everyone, it's going to fail. Like if you're a female fashion brand and you're like, any woman can wear this. Nope. You're either old, you're either young, you're either for young moms, you're either for millennials, working millennials. Like you got to be so focused. And this is a great exercise. I always tell our clients when we're coming on board, I'm like, who is your target customer? What's her name? His or her name? How old are they? Where do they live? What type of job do they have? Where do they spend their time? Like, do they like to go bowling? Do they like to go sailing? Do they have a dog? Do they have a cat?
Yeah.
How much money do they make? Do they live close to their parents?
What do they drive?
They move to another city? What kind of car do they drive? And the moment the customers in fashion, apparel, lifestyle brands that are most successful, they have one avatar and they are so focused on that avatar. And all the marketing that they produce is literally, what does that person think? Well, they think it's cool. Well, they like this. What would they think if we put this out? And if that becomes the litmus test, whether what does this person think? Yes or no, are they going to like it? That's the key to success. And going back to Cherokee, one of the reasons we're having success, especially on the paid media side right now with these performance creatives, is because what we found is the old Cherokee ads women love. It's nostalgic.
It's heritage.
1972, nostalgic heritage, California lifestyle. So what we've been doing with our creatives is all of them look like we're doing photo shoots from the early 1970s. We're literally telling GTV, like when we use it, we're like, put the woman in a woman that looks like she's in 1972 Venice, the way she's dressed, the music. And we're even saying use a Super 8 camera lens. We can write scripts into our briefs that actually bakes in what type of lens we're using with the detail. So now all of our top performing ads, we just had our weekly media buying team call earlier today. All of our top performing ads for February are all nostalgic ads that look like these ads were put into a newspaper or a magazine in the 70s. And that's the brand. Anytime we've tried to go Gen Z young, we try to restyle for today, it doesn't work. But the heritage, the legacy, and keeping the brand what it is what's let us 3x the media spend. We have a target ROAS that we need to hit, and then we have a blended, new customer MER. And as long as we're hitting those two KPIs, we can scale the ad account.
Well, you know what's interesting about that, just going to it on the branding side of it, is that, and I did on my Substack like a 4 or 5 part series on Gen Z, is that you may be getting Gen Z customers because they see the Cherokee product in the vintage stores. The from back then. So they discovered and they said the quality is so good back then. I can't even find shoes that mirror that now. I go into the stores and it's like fast fashion shoes.
Totally.
I could wear them to 2 events and it's over, so.
Even on top of that, like it was actually funny. One of our copywriters on our team, when we started working with them, was like, oh my God, I remember Cherokee. My mom used to wear them and then I would steal them from her. And that's what millennials see as the brand. My mom used to wear these and I thought they were so cool.
Yeah.
So
or they took them from their mom's closet.
They took them from their mom's closet. Exactly. So it's nostalgic to what it's nostalgic, right? And that's something that, is just so cool to see that we can take this legacy brand, we can apply new technology, because for us to do these shoots like we're getting the creative of would not make financial sense, at least not right now. We have a lot of time to scale before we could get into a place where we could be renting these vintage vehicles and closing down a part of Venice Beach to be able to do these types of shoots. But now, we're able to create these performance creatives. We're even creating avatars. So we're taking like old, like vintage photos from the 70s that we're finding, and we're building an avatar out of this woman in this photo, change around some things, and now we can use that character moving forward.
So I mean, I do think that using the technology is really important because you can really play with it and you can get instant data off of it, which helps build more strategy off of that and more enhanced ROI. But I do think there has to be a balance with some level of traditional content creation.
For sure.
Real organic
100%. 100%.
So and there is a way to make money off of a nice size video budget, but you need to plan it going in terms of what you want out of it. So if you're going to be producing say a $25,000 video, right? You need to make sure that obviously whatever you're going to be showing on it, you make sure you're producing it in terms of the product, so you have enough of it to
that you
sell.
have enough inventory that makes sense. Yeah,
that makes sense, and the timing is right.
Absolutely. You also need proven USPs on the product. Like, what's the unique selling prop? Is it proven? But like I said, one thing that I'm like I said, this is, in my opinion, are we ever going to move to a place where this is just going to get rid of all production? Hell no. It's not. Because but at the end of the day, what we're able to do, we need so much volume on creative with limited budgets. And the biggest stress factor
and some of it
quick turnaround. The big stress piece that we had as marketers, especially on the paid media side, is we're going to clients. Clients are giving us the creative, and then we're testing it. And it either works or it doesn't work, right? And then we go back to the client. We're like, this worked, this doesn't work. And if nothing worked, then we have to go back to them and say, hey, this didn't work, and this is why we think it didn't work. We need you to do this again.
Well,
Client gets
actually,
exhausted.
but actually, to that point, and maybe, and just talking about it between us, like maybe the AI content creation can give you enough feedback to your client so that when they do spend the money on a live activation or a live content creation, they have all of the touch points that they need to hit so that they increase the probability of success with that
100%.
content. That I would be,
I agree.
It feeds off each other, So.
No, and I think, John, I think the way to look at AI is it's like rapid prototyping. So think about like in the tech world when you build an MVP, right? Minimum viable product. It's never perfect, but an MVP for any tech product is the foundation to the business because that's your litmus test. Does someone want to use it, and does it work or does it not work?
By the way, it can.
Yeah.
Like the data that you're getting off of it, I would actually incorporate that into the brand books, because then the communication is clearly disseminated throughout the 360 degrees. Even if you have a wholesale side of the business and the salespeople have to key in to what's resonating out there.
Totally. And it's another great takeaway too, is like creatives, operators, marketers, we all have biases, especially creatives. Creatives are very biased to like their own tastes and preferences. So if there's things that are polarizing that they wouldn't have tried because they didn't like it or a founder didn't like it, like how many times have you worked with the founder where you're like, they're so picky with creative that it's preventing them from trying things that are going to actually move the needle, right? And so what we find now is that, like I said, being able to rapid prototype things, try things fast, and do it very, very cheaply, right? Doing very cheap, gives us the opportunity to see what's working and what's not, and move faster. Because if you're spending, $500 to $10,000 a day on paid, and that's the lifeblood of your D2C business. And if things go bad, you have a couple bad days that could drain your profit for the whole month.
Yeah.
So the more we can get feedback from there, I think that's where I see the future on the AI side of the creative, and how we can then plan better shoots in the future to say, these are what we thought, but this is actually something that we tested that we would have never tried. And that's kind of where Meta's telling us to do. Meta's, Android Meta updates wants weird stuff. It wants off-brand stuff. It wants us to be spending 70% plus of our paid media budget on top of funnel. And the reason for that is because if no one knows who your brand is, no one cares for it to be buttoned up and beautiful. If no one cares about you, they don't matter. It doesn't matter if you have the most beautiful brand in the world. But Meta knows that if things are ugly, if things are off-brand, if they're unique, if it's different, that's what's going to stop a scroll on the medium of Meta as a channel. And that's what's going to get someone to take an action. And ultimately, that's what builds our funnel, is an action.
That's an interesting concept there, because if you have an elevated lifestyle brand versus an off-price brand, off-price brands, you can be disruptive, and because the price is what creates the conversion, but with a elevated lifestyle brand, people have to develop more of an emotional attachment to it versus a price attachment, and that's a different communication.
100%.
Completely.
That's where we're looking at brand creatives versus performance, because the brand piece for what you're talking about, that's like the storytelling piece, right? There's so many different ways to do that now. Like we're doing brand in like weird niches, like spearfishing. Like we have a chainsaw company We have a company that makes tactical gear, and we're starting to use.
Can you do a collaboration with the chainsaw company? Like, like figure out a good one. That's like a furniture company and chainsaw. Maybe.
Like, my client that makes chainsaw parts is my favorite client.
Is he based in Texas?
No, in Washington.
No, that's where they had that.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, but they're like I'm just like I feel like we popped into a market, and that is just never been serviced before, and it is unreal with the numbers.
Well, that's a great
for
TikTok, and stuff like that.
But what I was saying is we're using long form YouTube there. So you think about like how personalities are being built in today. You have personalities being built on short form. You have personalities on long form. But what I've been finding is if brands can start building personality through long form, YouTube, now when we have a new YouTube video, we send someone to watch that video. We don't even say buy anything. We're like, go watch this video on how to change out, how to install this specific chainsaw part, right? And then what ends up happening, someone's there, they're interested in it. Obviously, they're on your list. They're consuming, they're getting educated. You can educate or you can entertain, or you can do both at the same time. So that education piece is now it's essentially like that long form YouTube video is becoming a VSL, a video sales letter. And now someone clicks the link in the in the YouTube description and goes and buys the part.
So
awesome.
I have another question. So I mean, sort of like tying this together, just understanding, because I've been advising my clients that they have to start getting into the programming business. No different than if you're like working for a channel on like a streaming channel, and you're doing the programming. At this time it's going to be this, the next hour it's going to be this, the next day it's going to be this, and then every week we repeat it, some things and some things we don't. It would be good to understand. Well, before we get to that, I've been explaining to my clients, like, you need to be in the programming business, and maybe that's to a certain extent what Gap is doing with their entertainment part of they're starting an entertainment sort of division, which is like basically to be 24/7 content creation.
Everyone's trying to do what Red Bull's did. Red Bull's been I think when you think about a brand that built off of syndicating entertainment content, I mean, that's been the crux of Red Bull, and it's not just, I've heard, like you said, Gap's doing it. I've actually heard that there's a couple of fast food brands. I want to say like Chick-fil-A is doing it now. This is the new thing. They're bringing on studio heads to actually now build this content piece. And I think what's interesting, I know you told me you're real bullish on the live streaming piece, and not live streaming on TikTok, but live streaming on your own channels, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah,
it's all entertainment. At the end of the day, it's
it's entertainment.
It's all entertainment, and like most entertainment, they all have their own, like American Idol. Like, they built this brand, right?
Yep.
It's the same thing.
And they have dancing bears. There's like someone dancing on camera. It's either the founder or it's an influencer. Like, there's a personality, right, behind it. It's crazy because you look at fundamentally entertainment over the last 60, 70 years. It's the same thing. It's just a different platform in a different way.
Yeah.
But it's wild how we can be living in a world now where brands can be live streaming, like you were saying, with that platform directly on their own website.
Yeah.
Right?
So I work with this company called Shop Z Live, and they're past the beta stage. They've already launched it with several brands, and basically it layers on top of your existing marketing and digital marketing and email marketing strategies, and basically, and it's been very big in China, by the way, but America, for some reason, hasn't adopted it yet, but right now I see that this is the opportunity because what it is. It's like you can do some email marketing, for example, to your existing to your best customers, and they literally can have a one-on-one shopping experience with a person, and this is all recorded, and and then they can buy off of it. So if you have a denim brand, the biggest problem with denim brands are obviously fit and stretch or whatever. So, but certainly fit. And denim also has the biggest return rate, because if you're buying it online, unless you're familiar with a specific style that you buy all the time, not everything fits perfectly. There's different design attributes that could change the fit depending on whether it's stretch or rigid. But the bottom line is that if you go into a store and you try on a pair of jeans, that's the only way you're going to know if it fits or not, and not return it because you're buying it right there, you're putting it on in the dressing room. But with live shopping, you could see who the model is. You could say, okay, so what's your waist size? What's your inseam? And they could put it on for you, and they could show how well it fits, and you could just buy right off of that. I mean, there's not going to be any better product knowledge that you're going to get without going into a store, of course. And even going into a store, you just never know, because you go into some department stores and it's like no one coming up to you to help you. But this is like one-on-one online.
People can interact. They can go into a live chat and ask questions to whoever's live. Like,
exactly.
Hey, I'm a bust. I'm this size bust, or I have big hips. I have short legs. What do you think I should get?
Exactly. And so it could work both in terms of product knowledge and also in styling. So if you have like a collection type brand, you can try and upsell and style online. And
that's awesome.
And not only that, but there's a function of this company where it stays on the site. So you have this compelling person showing the product and talking about the product that you can access at any time on the site. So instead of just seeing just a picture on three-way front, side, back on a model,
it's like an infomercial that you can actually interact with that's live online.
Exactly.
What's so cool about that too? You can record that, you can chop it up, you can turn it into short form content.
Exactly.
There's opportunity. I mean, like I said, everything we're talking about, there's like the world of content can go so many different ways. From you have your own infomercials on your own website that are live and people can actually interact with it and then buy directly there. We have long form YouTube that becomes exponentially more valuable, that you can use as landing pages, you can use for SEO, for LLM search capabilities, right? And then for brand building, right? Getting people to entertaining them and get them to come back to buy your stuff, you know? It's such a cool world we're living in. We have access to more tools than we've ever had before. Now it's like we're not short of tools now. We're short of what do we
strategy.
Strategy. Yeah, you're right. It's strategy. It's like, what do you actually do? Where do you spend your dollars? Who do you hire? Right? And then what do the numbers look like? But yeah.
By the way, I do think that there's an important number that I'd like to talk with you about.
Yeah,
and that is, I do believe that there should be some next level, and you probably get it through AI, assessment of how much content that you actually do need in a given month. What do you need in terms of your capacity? So that, in terms of hours or time, and then break it up and do your planning and your editing so that you can fill those gaps and just insert them into the calendar,
Yeah.
Like
that's actually smart.
I don't know if anyone's really sort of figured it out, but it's like, okay, AI, I'm going to be doing 3 email marketing blasts, 2 SMS. I'm going to post these. I have new arrivals every week, and
I'm
you know, like
spending
all these
$1,000 on
different,
Meta. I'm spending 500 a day, 1,000 on Meta a day,
yeah,
300 on Google. How much volume of creative do I need? It's
exactly.
actually a really great idea, and I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could build a GPT to do that. Then the thing too is then you say, what's your input output? Like, are you trying to do a million a month? Are you trying to do 50 grand a month? Are you trying to do 3 million a month? Then that gives you a litmus on like the volume play and how much volume you actually need because, depending on your level, every brand's different. Yeah.
I just think the capacity is really important because then you could create the deliverables for your content creators, and then they at least know what to do. Like right now, part of what we spoke about, the expense of creating non AI generated content is expensive, but I think it's expensive because people haven't taken it and chopped it up enough to know what it actually averages out to per minute or whatever, and there's different, and you can feel, so you sort of have to storyboard it, knowing what you want out of it, and then have the editor give you those deliverables so that you can fill those gaps with that organic content. And not a lot of people, not very few people do that right now.
Yeah.
And I do think it's going to become more and more important because it'd be the same need. It's like, okay, like I filled up 60% of my content through this one video for the month, because now we're talking in terms of time because we figured out this is something we need. And then it's like, okay, another 40% we need through AI generated content. And then Mark, you need to start to, this is what you need to touch on. This is what we were unable to address in the live thing. 3 samples did not come in on time. Can you put that through the AI, in the same sort of thing? So I do think that is going to be conversation or strategy. It doesn't exist right now, but we just could see it now. And what's so interesting is with all the new technology coming in, people who have really good application experience, not new people in the industry, but people I think that have had, gone through some hard knocks. And if they've been able to apply technology in the past to their, the energy that's coming off of it now is just, amazing, because we can start talking about these things and know that it's like right there on the horizon, and it's strategy that
for sure
makes sense for the times we're living in now. So
yep, and it's like you need less inputs and you get more outputs with the leverage of the technology and the right tools. Yeah. Well, John, I know we're running up on time, but this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
We're going to definitely have to do this more often.
No, we didn't even talk about Reddit. We didn't talk. We didn't talk about a lot of things, but
yeah.
But hopefully, what's interesting is that on the consulting side of it, this whole area that you're involved in started off with, like in 2008, 2007, people were doing websites with Magento and, like really.
That's when I started. I started building sites in 08 when I was in college, 07, 08.
Yeah.
And, by the time I graduated, that's when I started my first e-commerce business was in 2010. And then I learned marketing. And then I was like, I like the marketing, but I ran an e-commerce wine business, and that was the hardest business I've ever ran.
Well, yeah, and, you have different rules in every state.
In every state.
I know, it's crazy.
Shipping alcohol, needing signature. It was compliance hell. But yeah, well, John, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. It's so fun talking with you. I love that the level of feeding off each other in a lot of ways, because like I like working with people that sort of finish my sentence, because then they sort of like can feel where I'm heading on certain things, or even with you, like I just like know exactly like what your challenges are. So like so that's really important.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And John, for whoever wants to get in touch with you, either if you're running a fashion apparel lifestyle brand and they're looking some support, where can people get in touch with you?
Well, my email is jlevine at appareladvisors.com. They could also go on my website, appareladvisors.com, and take a look at all the brands that I've worked with in the past, and some of the fun things I've worked on. Or they can go on my LinkedIn page or Substack. I like Substack. We didn't talk about Substack yet.
I know. We'll put all links to your Substack, LinkedIn, and the website, so everyone has easy access to it there.
If you subscribe to my Substack, you get some really great content to download and different pointers of the businesses and where I'm feeling things are heading or not. But I love to give back to the universe what I've learned. So it's
very cool.
It's a fun thing. But
nice.
Anyway, Mark, it's great seeing you.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
And let's do this again.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jon.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.